India has sought to establish its presence in Afghanistan from the early days of its independence from Britain in 1947. In 1950, Afghanistan and India signed a friendship treaty. India had robust ties with Afghan King Zahir Shah's regime. Prior to the Soviet invasion in 1979, New Delhi continued to formalize agreements and protocols with various pro-Soviet regimes in Kabul. I'm Kasim, this is KJ Vids, and in this video we will look at India's interests in Afghanistan. India broadly has four interests in Afghanistan. The first is security. India has had to contend with many significant security challenges that stem from the Taliban's regime in Afghanistan in the 1990s. Pakistan has long been accused of supporting several militant groups that operate in India. These groups are said to be trained in Afghanistan. Thus, India is absolutely adamant that Afghanistan should not again become a terrorist safe haven. Secondly, India seeks to undermine Pakistan's influence in Afghanistan. It is interested in retaining Afghanistan as a friendly state from which it has the capacity to monitor Pakistan and, even where possible, cultivate assets to influence activities in Pakistan. Meanwhile, Pakistan busies itself trying to deny India these very opportunities. Thirdly, both Pakistan and India need new energy sources to fuel their growing and modernizing economies. India's extraordinary economic growth of more than 7% annually since 1997 has made it the world's second fastest growing energy market, with estimates that the country will need to import more than 80% of its fuel by 2030. The proposed 1,000-mile $7.6 billion pipeline from Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan and India, called the TAPI pipeline, would carry 33 billion cubic meters per year of Turkmen gas. India and Pakistan would receive 14 billion cubic meters each year, representing 1.5% of India's total annual energy consumption and 15% of Pakistan's. The transport of Central Asian energy resources to both India and Pakistan requires stability in Afghanistan, whose territory the TAPI pipeline must cross, giving both countries strong incentives to promote security there. Finally, India attempts to project itself as a global power and demonstrate global interests. The trend of India's growth and integration into the global economy has increased the importance of commercial and trade objectives of Delhi's foreign policy. This trend has created a perception amongst Indians that the country is a global power and should seek to shape the world around it. India considers its aspirations as an extra-regional power to be legitimate to commensurate with the growing size of its economy, says Shah Banu of the Norwegian think tank Peace Research. Delhi has long used its military as a tool of projecting its influence around the world. More than 100,000 Indian troops have participated in 40 UN peacekeeping missions since the 1950s, more than 8,000 of who are currently serving. The Indian Navy has deployed ships on counter-piracy missions off the coast of Somalia. Even within the South and Central Asia regions, India's military has taken an increasingly proactive role. It built an air force base in Tajikistan, from which it transports humanitarian assistance, construction materials and other goods into Afghanistan. The base also enables it to project military power into Central Asia. India has also deployed small numbers of security forces to Afghanistan, primarily to protect Indian diplomatic missions and reconstruction projects. Despite these moves, many Indians have a sense that their country must exert more of an influence in South Asia as a whole if it is to be taken seriously as a world power. Afghanistan is a litmus test for India's ascendance as a regional and global power, writes Harsh V. Pant. India's capacity to deal with instability in its own backyard will in the final analysis determine its rise as a global power of major import. Former Indian Army Deputy Chief of Staff R.K. Shoni writes more bluntly, India cannot afford to beat a retreat from Afghanistan if it wants to remain a major regional player. In order to achieve its interests, India has taken a range of steps to exert influence in the Afghan political sphere. It has done this firstly by seeking political influence in Afghanistan by supporting the government since the installation of Hamid Karzai. It worked to bolster the Karzai administration and improve the capabilities of the Afghan security forces. After the Taliban fell, Delhi immediately reopened its embassy in Kabul and consulates in Kandahar and Jalalabad. It later opened consulates in Herat and Mazar-e-Sharif, the major commercial centres in the western and northern parts of Afghanistan. These diplomatic posts enable India to build relationships with local leaders, facilitate trade and investment, and increase awareness of regional developments. Pakistan officials allege that Delhi also uses them to collect intelligence and support separatists in the Pakistani province of Balochistan. The Foreign Ministry of Pakistan asserts that Indian consulates in Jalalabad and Kandahar are a veritable base for RAW, India's research intelligence agency, and its accessories. Whether this is true or not, India denies the allegation. Secondly, the Indian government has used a range of economic policy tools to increase influence in the country. Delhi is the biggest regional donor to Afghanistan and fifth largest donor globally, with over $3 billion in assistance since 2001. In September 2017, India and Afghanistan agreed to move ahead with a new development partnership to the tune of $1 billion, in which India would take up hundreds of development projects in Afghanistan in areas including education, health, agriculture, water, etc. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping also agreed to work on several development projects in Afghanistan jointly. The bilateral trade between India and Afghanistan in 2016 to 2017 stood at $590 million, with India's exports to Afghanistan being $377 million and imports from Afghanistan worth $212 million. But India wants to increase this even more, and Afghanistan is hopeful of doubling bilateral trade relations to $2 billion with India by 2020 through private investments and cooperation in various fields. A senior government official of Afghanistan said that our bilateral trade with India is $1 billion at present and is expected to reach more than $2 billion by 2020. We seek private investment and cooperation from India in the field of agriculture, mining, heavy industries, education, healthcare, energy, IT and transportation, said Afghanistan's ambassador to India, Shaida Mohammed Abdali. But beyond Afghanistan, India policy analysts claim that India's strategic environment stretches to the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf in the west, the Strait of Malacca, and extends up to the South China Sea in the east, and is comprised of Central Asia to the north. Raja Mohan, a prominent India security analyst, explains that India's grand strategy divides the world into three concentric circles. In the first, which encompasses the immediate neighbourhood, India has sought primacy and a veto over the actions of outside powers. In the second, which encompasses the so-called extended neighbourhood stretching across Asia and the Indian Ocean, India has sought to balance the influence of other powers and prevent them from undercutting its interests. In the third, which includes the entire global stage, India has tried to take its place as one of the great powers, a key player in international peace and security. India's interests in Afghanistan can therefore be seen as merely one element within India's larger desire to be able to project its interests beyond South Asia. India's interests in Afghanistan have also led to some cooperation between India and China, who both have strategic economic goals in the region. Beijing fears that further insecurity in Afghanistan can have a destabilizing influence on Pakistan and other Central Asian republics. These undesirable fallouts could substantially weaken the projects of Xi Jinping's pet geopolitical project, the Belt and Road Initiative. This has led to their bilateral cooperation between India and China over Afghanistan. Last April, the two leaders agreed to cooperate in Afghanistan, co-implementing economic projects that can boost economic growth and strengthen security in Afghanistan. Their shared long-term goal of increased connectivity across the new and old Silk Roads makes Afghanistan the heart of their relationship. China has expressed appreciation for India's developmental work in Afghanistan within a broader understanding that both countries must strengthen the Kabul government. There seems to be fresh thinking in New Delhi and Beijing on how to navigate their respective interests in Afghanistan by working in close coordination, but it remains to be seen whether anything significant will come out of the consensus. In this video, we haven't touched on American and Russian interests in Afghanistan. Their interests further complicates the region, which we will perhaps talk about in a future video. But for now, it remains clear that India has a major economic and security interest in Afghanistan that will not disappear anytime soon. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Thanks for watching another KJ video. We would love to hear your comments in the section below. Please continue to support our content by liking and sharing our videos. You can also support KJ Vids by becoming a Patreon from as little as $1 per month. Your support will help us to pay for content, licenses, footage, and conduct original research.